I can think back now to the first time I tried quitting gaming. And I can remember I had tried quitting gaming for months and months and months up to the point of this story. And I looked myself in the mirror this one particular school night after coming home from school, playing some video games for like 4 hours, even though I told myself I wasn't. I was just going to resist the urge. I just wouldn't look at it. I came back and I did. And I kind of had this moment of clarity, of consciousness, when I looked myself in the mirror and said, this can't go on. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep lying to myself and betraying myself every single day. So what I did, what I thought of doing, was something drastic, something foolish, but something that actually ended up working for me in the long term. I grabbed my running shoes, I grabbed a hoodie, I put an educational podcast on that I started listening to, and I stepped outside and I started running in the rain. And it was cold, it was dark, it was like early spring at this point, so there's like snow melting on the ground. And I started running, and I had water that was soaking into my feet and chilling them and wrinkling them up. My hands were cold, but my core was warm, and I was like sweating through my hoodie. I had like a mixture of like dew and sweat all over my face. The one earbud was falling out. All of my limbs felt kind of like jelly because I hadn't stretched properly, and they all kind of ached from the high impact of the running. But I kept going through the suburbs, through the park, through some fields around my house, and I was extremely uncomfortable in the moment. And when I started thinking about that, I realized that at one point I just wasn't being kind to myself in this moment. I just brought myself out there because I guess I just hated myself. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I realized, hey, the old me would never do this. The old gamer type me who would play games for 8 hours a day and stack all kinds of bad habits on top of that and wanted to stay inside his comfortable room for all that time would never do this. He was afraid of doing this. He was afraid of discomfort. And now I've overcome that fear. Now I've overcome that fear of discomfort through pushing through it and acting on it. And if I can do this, something this difficult and this hard and this uncomfortable, why can't I quit video games? Why can't I leave that chapter of my life behind me and rebuild my life into something better? And that's exactly what I did with this protocol that I'm going to talk to you about, what I call the rock bottom protocol. So the first step to this rock bottom protocol is to know yourself better as a first step. So I want you to grab a physical piece of paper that you can write on, right? And something to write with. So a paper, a pen, whatever. And I want you to journal these questions. What makes me dislike myself? What do I do? What qualities do I have as a person that I don't like, that I'm not comfortable with, that make me perceive myself as lesser value than I actually am? If I keep gaming, where will I be in 2 years? If I keep on doing the exact same habits I'm doing right now, if I change nothing about myself for 2 whole years, 24 months, then where will I be? How much money will I be earning, if that matters to you? What will I think about myself? What will other people think of me? What will my parents, my family think of me at that point? Where will I be? What will my life look like? It probably won't be good, and that's the whole point of doing this. But the next question is, what/who/where would you be if you had $1 million? What would you do? Who would you become? Where would you go, basically? If money was not a concern at all, what would you do with your life? And the next one is journal your worst case scenario if you do quit gaming. What are you afraid of? In other words, what is the worst case scenario if you quit? What's the worst thing that could happen if you do successfully quit video games? It might be worthwhile just sitting there for maybe like an hour, 2 hours, just stare at a wall. Don't have any other kind of stimulation beside you while you answer these questions, because this is the foundation. These questions are how you get more familiar with yourself. And the more familiar you are with yourself and your shortcomings and your attitudes towards certain stuff, then the more success you're going to have when quitting gaming, believe me. By the way, if you want to take your journey to quit gaming to the next level and get my personal help with your journey, then check out my course. The link to it is in the description. It's another step-by-step walkthrough of where I do a deep dive into the mental and physical actions needed to be taken to truly quit video games and to set up your life for success after you're done quitting video games. So go ahead and check that out It's a deep dive. The link to it is basically in the description. It's about 2 hours of content for your own benefit. And then from there, you can even upgrade to one-to-one coaching if that's what you're interested in. So go ahead and check it out. And the final question is, just describe your worst possible quitting gaming situation in detail. Like, you do successfully quit gaming. What's the worst thing that happens after that? So come back to this video after you're done answering those questions, or just keep watching. I don't care. So once you've answered those questions in detail, especially the last one, once you have your worst case scenario in your head about what happens if you do quit gaming, about the worst possible future that happens if you do that, then I want you to essentially live out your worst case scenario. So maybe you tell yourself, oh, I quit gaming and for some reason I go homeless, right? I'm afraid of being uncomfortable. I'm afraid of having little material resources. I'm afraid of going hungry. I'm afraid of being poor. I'm afraid of not being able to pay my taxes, my bills, my rent. I'm afraid of not being able to buy groceries, stuff like that. I'm afraid of being rejected by people. I'm afraid of social judgment. I'm afraid of being lonely. I'm afraid of conflict. I'm afraid of pain even. Whatever you are afraid of as it relates to your journey to quit gaming, whatever negative emotion is stopping you from quitting gaming that you're afraid of, I need you to overcome that. So I have some examples here. If you're afraid of starvation, go ahead and just don't eat. Not starve yourself, but just get used to the feeling of being hungry, which is actually healthy for you. That's why people fast for like 1 day, 2 day, 3 day cleanses, or they even do like 1, 2, 3 week kind of deals, and they are absolutely fine. They don't lose muscle mass, they just lose fat. Your mind kind of clears up. You got a whole bunch of toxins out of your body because you're not eating bad food anymore. It's actually very good for you. So go ahead and just don't eat for at least like maybe 48 hours if you're afraid of starvation. And even if you do that, you can go up to like 3 weeks and not see any negative side effects. I'm not an expert though, so definitely do some research before you do anything that extreme. The point is, just get used to the feeling of not having food, of not eating. And then if you're afraid of conflict, I want you to start a fight or get into a fight. Now, this doesn't mean you have to like pull out a knife on someone and get arrested and get reported or whatever, but maybe you just join a martial arts club or a gym just for one session, and you get into like an actual kind of fight with someone, or you just spar them. You get used to the feeling of being in physical conflict with somebody else. And that feeling is actually quite freeing, if I can speak from experience. When I joined a local jiu-jitsu club, it's actually very freeing to be rolling with someone on the mat, just body-to-body contact. You're overtly trying to submit that other person. It's very honest, it's very open, and it's actually quite intimate once you get used to it. And after it, the best thing is there's just no hard feelings. There's no hard feelings after a hard conflict like that, which is just a beautiful thing. So go ahead and experience actual physical conflict if that's what you're afraid of. And this will help you quit gaming in the future, believe me. If you're afraid of poverty, of not having money, then basically just live like a hobo for a week. I'm not even kidding. Go to the downtown of your city. Just leave all of your money, all of your ID, all of your wallets, anything that you can use to buy anything, leave it at home. Dress in poor clothing. Pick out like the worst, most shabby, most like, just unstylish outfit that you have, and then wear that downtown. And then just walk around for a day. Don't have your car, don't have a bike, don't have anything. Just have no money, no transportation, just the clothes on your back, the shoes on your feet, and walk around for a whole day. Try and find something to do to entertain yourself. I think that would be a great challenge to overcome your fear of poverty. And I've done it before, and it honestly wasn't even that bad. I just hung out at a park, I went to the library, do this, do that, just kind of walk around, see the sights. It's not that bad. Just get used to the feeling of not having money, not having that power, that leverage that comes with money. So you're no longer afraid of being broke in a sense, or just make a challenge for yourself where you don't spend anything for like a week besides on essential items. If you live with your parents, then that becomes very easy. But yeah, if you're afraid of loneliness or boredom, I want you to go out into the wilderness and live there for a day or two, even a couple of days a week if you want. Go camping by yourself basically, and like an out-country campground, right? Where you're basically alone in God's country for like 48 hours. You have no one to talk to, you have no one to look at besides yourself. So you can basically just like dwell out there in the woods for like a couple days, just with yourself, with your thoughts, no one to talk to, just there with yourself, having to deal with yourself. Don't bring any technology along, no books, no magazines, no newspapers even, nothing to read. It's just you and yourself, and you're meditating on your own loneliness. And that will make you get over the fear of isolation, of loneliness, not having any other people around you. Because at the end of the day, we're all kind of lonely by ourselves. We're not connected to anyone internally. We're all our own vessel. And while it's good to have community, while it's good to connect with people, getting used to the feeling of being lonely is a superpower. It's an advantage, especially when it comes to quitting gaming. And maybe you have to move on from certain friend groups after a while, because you can no longer relate to your old gamer friends. So you have to have the spell of loneliness, where you're not actually seeing anyone regularly. You're not friends with anyone. So yeah, get used to loneliness by cutting off all of your information sources, including people, and just living out in the wild for a couple days. Or just go for a very long walk, like a day trip, where you have no other sources of information or people to talk to, like I said. And then if you're afraid of rejection, then I want you to do something called cold approaching, especially if you're a guy. I want you to go to a local mall, a local park, a local place where a lot of people gather. I want you to approach a couple people of the opposite gender, who are preferably your age, right? So if you're like a teenage guy watching this, approach some teenage girls, right? Like, it's not weird, because you're never going to see these people again, in all likelihood. Just ask them, hey, I was going to go to this thing right now, going to go meet some friends, but then I realized that you were really pretty. I want your number, etc., etc. I swear I'm not a psychopath, whatever, right? Just ask for numbers, ask for contact information, and kind of approach it from the angle that you're romantically interested, so it doesn't come across as creepy. The point of this, I know it sounds completely out of left field, I know it sounds completely ridiculous, but the point is to get over the fear of rejection. It's to get over the fear of asking people certain things. It's to get over the fear of loneliness and not having anyone beside you, like you will on this gaming journey that you have. You might say that you have me, but I'm just behind a screen. I'm just giving you advice. This is a one-way parasocial relationship. This does not count. So get used to that fear of rejection. Get used to that feeling of rejection. And it is an awesome fear to overcome, let me tell you. You will be so much more powerful. You have so much more potential once you get over that fear of not being able to ask people certain things. And if you're afraid of pain, then I want you to go ahead and do what I did at the beginning, and basically hit a marathon workout or go for a super long run with no music, no podcast even, because that's a way to distract yourself from the pain. That's a way to distract yourself from being present in the moment with the pain. So yeah, marathon workout or podcast. Run a super long distance, like 10 miles plus, with no music, no input whatsoever. Or hit like a marathon workout. If you go to the gym, no music, just work out for like 2 hours straight, super high intensity, heavy weights, whatever. Get used to that pain, and you're going to experience that pain through exercise and overcome it internally by telling yourself, this can't break me. Video game addiction and quitting video games can't break me if I do try and quit, because I've already done stuff like this, and if I can do this, then I can do anything, right? So the timeline for this rock bottom protocol after that is essentially you just journal the prompts that I mentioned before, right? You journal about your hopes and dreams, journal about what you want your life to look like in the future, ideally, right? I forgot to add that, but you basically just add, what do I want to do with my life besides just game and sit around and rot all day? What would I want to do before I'm 80 years old and on my deathbed, right? What change would I want to make in the world? What do I want to do personally? What personal milestones do I want to hit? What big goals have I always wanted to hit that I've never been able to do because I've been too distracted by gaming? Write those down, think about them, visualize them. And then I want you to also develop a habit of meditation, of training your presence basically. And this is going to help massively for impulse control, which is also going to help for quitting video games. Because once you can reinsert yourself into the moment, once you can reinsert yourself into the present, kind of like mentally slap yourself into the face to be more present, then you have so much more control over your urges, especially the urge to game, right? So that will definitely help. Develop a habit of meditation. Just sit there for 3 minutes with your eyes closed and breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth, like just really being slow and deliberate and careful about that process. And that's going to help massively to change your mindset as it relates to presence. And the key to this is that your mind is going to stray while you just sit there with your eyes closed and breathe. So whenever your mind starts to stray, I want you to return to the breathing, return to maybe counting your breaths, or just focusing on the inhalation exhalation thing, where you're breathing into your belly, right? Like, and your belly comes out, your belly swells because you're filling your diaphragm with air, and then the exhalation where you're basically like forcibly pushing it out. That is key. That presence, that awareness of the breath and focusing on nothing else but the breath is key to meditation, and it's key to getting out of this video game rut, let me tell you. So then you do the rock bottom protocol. Ideally, you become clean for 2 weeks after repeatedly doing those challenges that I talked about before, right? You repeatedly do those, overcoming all of your fears until you haven't played video games for 2 weeks. Because A, you've done the challenges that I've talked about, and B, you've started taking very, very small, very, very incremental steps towards your ideal life. You find other things to occupy yourself with other than video games. Maybe you start reading books about topics you're interested in. You've read books that you've always wanted to read. You start talking to people who you admire. You start getting closer to your family. You start exercising more because you realize that you're fat and you need to start losing weight like ASAP if you want to look good. You start gaining muscle if you've been skinny your entire life, just like so many other gamers are. They're chronically underweight, so you decide to start bulking up, which is an awesome goal. And then maybe you start focusing more on your mental health, or you start looking into other ways to make money online or in person. You start building a resume, you start building your career. Maybe you start looking into where you can go after high school, and maybe you start building your grades from there, or you start looking into alternative routes of education or travel, like I talked about in my other video. Travel is huge. And if you don't know what to do with yourself and you're a young guy with no responsibilities and maybe like a couple $1,000 in his pocket, then maybe you want to go ahead and travel for fun for like a year in Southeast Asia. Or if you don't have any money, then go ahead and work remotely. Go ahead and work at a resort or something for the summer. And I guarantee that way you're going to learn how to live independently, how to actually work and make money, how to have your own place and take care of yourself. It'll be a massive learning experience, trust me. So, yeah, the point here is to eliminate everything that's non-essential in your life and to get entirely onto this path of self-actualization and improvement of the self after you've escaped video games. And after that, or preferably before that, you just don't have the urge to game. After you've gone through these challenges, excuse me, after you've gone through these challenges and trials and tribulations, you no longer have the urge to game because you realize that there's so much more to life to it. There's so much more to you than just sitting there and gaming and passively consuming content and gooning or whatever else you do besides video games that you don't like about yourself, right? So you find something else to occupy yourself with, other than these goals, these milestones you subconsciously set up for yourself through video games, which you derive your purpose from. So yeah, you find that negative purpose. Sorry, you find that newfound purpose. And yeah, you reconnect yourself with your real self. You become more aware of your likes and dislikes, your wants for your life, like I talked about before. And you also reframe your idea of pleasure and pain. You begin to realize that immediate pleasure often yields long-term pain, like we did with video games, right? You play video games for years, you begin to see yourself as just like an antisocial gremlin who's been wasting his life, and it's a waste of space, which is true, because that short-term pleasure always leads to long-term pain. But that short-term pain, that pain in the moment that you experience in the gym, that I'm experiencing right now recording this video, is ultimately going to lead to long-term pleasure, being productive, gaining muscle, etc., etc., right? It's all about delayed gratification. And once you learn to capitalize on that as a person, you become way more powerful, way more effective as a person to build your own life and to get what you want out of life, instead of just sitting there and being a passive consumer, which is ultimately the thing that I'm trying to destroy with this channel, is guys being passive consumers, not taking their own life in their hands. Not in that way, but in the other way of taking responsibility, of being proactive with their lives, actually trying to make something out of themselves rather than waiting to be told what to do like we were conditioned to in school. And yeah, negative emotion only happens when we betray ourselves. I want to talk about that for a second. Negative emotion only arises when you know that you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, or when you know that you're avoiding something that you should be doing. That's when negative emotion arises. So the point isn't to minimize negative emotion, it's to realize it for what it actually represents, and then to deal with it accordingly. And then for the next 2 weeks, I want you to go on basically what I call an information detox. So that means you only use your phone for note-taking, education on your certain mission, and contacts. So those three: education, note-taking, contacts. Note-taking is just like writing reminders for yourself, right? And those are the only three things you're going to use your phone for. I want you to put your phone on grayscale. I want you to delete all of your social media apps that you use for scrolling, especially Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, etc. Delete all of those apps. And if you need them for any reason, just use your browser. You probably won't need them at all if you are taking this challenge seriously, because you're not going to have time to watch them. You're not going to want to watch them anyways, because you're trying to overcome your fears. You're trying to make yourself uncomfortable as a full-time job, right? You're trying to explore what you're interested in. And that might be a legitimate reason to use the internet for like actual research purposes, but please, please, please don't get distracted, because you'll be betraying yourself in that situation. And hopefully, if you've been meditating, you realize that you are doing it, and you'll snap back from it real quick. That's the hope. But that's only something that you can do at the end of the day. So please, please take that advice if you want to succeed in this. So yeah, uninstall your video games. Like I say in all my other videos, I want you to get rid of the games on your PC. I want you to sell your console on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, sell your PC on the same platform, or just put them in storage. Take them out of your room, put them out of your sight, out of your environment. They are no longer a part of your life, so they should no longer be in your own physical space. Just put them in your basement, put them in storage, get rid of them, right? Take down the gaming posters in your room, take down all the gaming memorabilia in your environment. Just get rid of everything that reminds you that you are a gamer. Maybe it's like merchandise, clothing, whatever. Just get rid of it. Don't look at it anymore. That is no longer who you are. And I guarantee that this will like speed up your journey by like 2 times the amount of success that you could find if you just kept them around. So yeah, you just find better activities at the end of the day, like we discussed. After you've hit rock bottom, after you've gone through those trials and tribulations, you find new activities, you find a new mission for yourself, you find the new pain in your life or other people's lives, that your life would be so much better if it were healed. For me right now, it's money, it's business, productivity, etc., etc. But for you, it could be maybe fitness or mental health, or reconnecting with your friends and family, or just being a better person. Who knows? That's up to you to decide. And this idea that suffering and dopamine/information detox is going to give you a clear mind is what this protocol is based off of. Once you've suffered, once you've organized your priorities, once you've become more familiar with yourself, quitting gaming becomes almost instantaneous. It becomes incredibly easy, because now your values, your drive to overcome gaming outweighs your urges to actually game in the first place, because you have so much purpose. You have this overwhelming sense of meaning, so much so that you no longer want to game, if that makes any sense. That's where you want to get to, and you get there by undergoing pain, trials, tribulations to overcome your fears, and getting new priorities, getting a new mission, getting a new purpose to your life. And yeah, You basically just want to interrogate yourself. Just keep asking yourself different questions until you do find that purpose, that newfound purpose that you can base your life off of. So once the challenge is done, what are you going to do? Once you've found your mission, what are you going to want to do? Well, you know that you complete the challenge when you stop gaming for 2 weeks. That's the bottom line to your quitting gaming journey. It's the fact that you have no longer gamed for 2 weeks, 14 days up to this point. You probably don't think about it anymore. You don't have the urges anymore, or maybe you do, but you just withheld that urge for 14 days, and you're doing new stuff with your time. Like I said before, the challenges, the new mission, all that stuff. You're busy throughout the day, either with that or with other responsibilities, your job, etc. Bottom line is, gaming is no longer a part of your life. That's when you know that you've done it successfully. So yeah, you find your mission, you make a plan based around it, even just like a rough step-based plan. You know, step 1, start going to the gym. Step 2, start doing more cardio. Step 3, start eating better, etc., etc. If that's your fitness journey that you want to isolate and get a lot better at. And then after you've done those 2 steps, get clean from gaming, have new priorities, and make a new mission, then you can basically return to normal life. You don't have to keep doing those cold approach, starvation, poverty challenges. You just go back to your normal life with this new normal that you've created for yourself. And from there, it's only up. Excuse me. Yeah, it's only up from there once you have those figured out. And there's actually a couple more strategies that I want to walk you through so that you can stay on this path a lot easier. And one of them is basically a daily workout or daily pain training. Now this can be cardio, maybe you're running, maybe you're working out for an hour or more, maybe you're doing like a little bit of both. I personally do like 1 hour of lifting followed by maybe like an hour at least of zone 2 cardio where I'm on my bike, I'm riding outside, just enjoying the sunshine or the bad weather, etc. But you just want a certain allocated time throughout your day, every single day, where you undergo a certain amount of physical pain and learn to tolerate it better. That reminds you of the suck, and it reminds you of how urgent your goal is because of the pain that you're experiencing. It realigns you, it recenters you in kind of like this pain meditation to the goals and priorities in your life. So just like 15 minutes, half an hour of like hard lifting, working out can even do this. Just a solid block every single day where you undergo some kind of painful, challenging, muscle burning, muscle building, fat burning, physical activity. That will definitely help. And yeah, so how to build mental discipline, how to make this protocol last. Well, one thing that I want to encourage you to do is, again, follow that low information diet. No podcasts, no films, no books, no magazines, no websites, no other info sources unless it's relevant to your mission, to your purpose. And then maybe you have like one cheat day for this, right? Where you go back to like watching a movie or reading a fictional book before bed, etc., etc. And then another tip that I can give here is just to stop multitasking to increase focus. And multitasking, I think, is dangerous because it takes your focus away from like the one thing that you're doing. So for example, don't watch content while you eat. That takes away the focus from your eating, and it kind of reverts the progress that you make during meditation, where you are training yourself to have willpower by training your presence, by training your focus on just like the one thing that you're doing in the moment. So only do one thing at a time, right? The exception to this could be like you're driving or biking or walking somewhere and you're listening to something in your one ear. That's fine. But everything else, don't multitask. So don't listen or read anything while you're on the toilet or when you're eating or when you're doing anything like that, right? Just focus on one source of information or one task at a time. Maybe you have like a manual job where you do like a lot of manual labor. Listening to stuff while you do that, that's totally fine as well. But otherwise, just train yourself to focus on one task at a time. And then cut that out. So you can actually tag me on Instagram while you do this challenge. And I'm only mentioning this now, but I'll leave the link to my Instagram the bio for this video or whatever, and you can tag me while you're doing this challenge at my Instagram address, and just have like a picture of you going through the struggle of you living in poverty or cold approaching or being alone in nature or whatever, and then add in the description what you're going to do next with your life, you think, what your next mission is going to be, and then send that to me over Instagram so we can kind of bolster some sense of community, some support there. But then cut that out as well. As a final message, I'd like to end with a quote from a certain movie called Fight Club that also preaches the detachment from material objects in the modern age. And it's by a character named Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt. And he says, "You are not your job. You're not how much money you have in the bank. You're not the car you drive. You're not the contents of your wallet. You are not your fucking khakis." And that is the quote that really resounds with this video from Fight Club. They're very closely interrelated because it always helps to detach from material objects, aka your gaming system, that gaming file that you've made so much progress in, those consoles that you collected, those limited edition remotes, your gaming chair, all of that comfort, all those artifacts, all of the memorabilia of gaming that you've collected over the years that may be worth thousands of dollars up to this point. None of that defines you. None of that is you. All of that is just illusion. It's distraction. It's designed to keep you in this slave mindset where you don't take initiative for your life and where you don't take yourself seriously, and where you don't have any overarching purpose to your life, and where your health is crap and you die early as a cog in the system. So you are none of that, and you should get rid of it if you haven't already. But you must find the essential few matters in your life that you truly do care about. That's the end point of this protocol, is to find the few things in your life that you actually do care about, then isolate them and work on them, and to find value in hard work rather than just an instant gratification and dopamine, which has been a struggle for me basically all my life, and I'm sure it'll be for you as well. But if you keep these tenets, the main message of this video in your mind, then I think that that's definitely going to help. So everything else is basically bullshit. I don't know if I've said this before, but everything that isn't your health, your spirituality, your purpose, your job, or your means of making money, whatever that is, or of just staying afloat, right? As it relates to meeting your personal needs like food, shelter, clothing, etc. Anything that isn't that, in your relationships to other people, and your mental, physical, spiritual health, and anything else that closely relates to your mission or your purpose in life is basically bullshit. And if small things are upsetting you in your life, if you're getting mad at people for doing small things, if you're obsessing over like tiny autistic details in your day-to-day life, then that shows a lack of character, and it also shows a lack of priorities, and you need to detach from that. And I've also found that I've stacked that on top of my gaming addiction as a means of having no real purpose, no real sense of identity in life. So that's just my 2 cents on the topic, and that's my actual expertise as it relates to gaming and what worked for me, and how I think you should set up your life and your mindset and your mentality for the rest of your journey in quitting video games. So yeah, that's all for me. Go ahead and do that Instagram thing that I talked about. Check out my course and watch the next video. It'll pop up here somewhere. I'll see you.